this next question comes from one of our readers, Beth, age 7.
Hi, Beth.
Hi. Why did you write a book about comets?
Why did I write a book about comets? Great question. I have something to show you. Hold on one second. I'm going to pick it up. I did this book called Space. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. This book is available, and actually a lot of homeschool parents have emailed me about these texts. These are available at Target every fall, and they're in the dollar bins. So, but I was hired by a publisher to write this book, and I don't know if you can see kind of the insides.
Wow.
But it was about space, and I've done a lot of these. I did one on animals. I did one on, countries, those kinds of things. But as my editor said, I'd like for you to write a book about space, all of the universe in 64 pages. So I did a lot of research about space for that book, and that's when I started researching comets, because comets is one of the topics that's in that book. And when I started researching comets, the only comet that I knew was Halley's Comet off the top of my head. So I started with that comet and almost right away found out about how the how Earth passed through the tail of the comet and how people kind of really freaked out. And so that fascinated me, but the thing that really nailed it for me was when I read that term comet pills, because that really did happen. Someone sold comet pills for $1 a pill, which was a lot of money in 1910.
So there's lots of tiny details in Selling Hope about life in 1910 that add a lot to the setting, like the songs and the headlines and Walt Whitman references and things like that. So where do you get the inspiration for the small details in the story? Do you have the details first and write the story around them, or research and fill in the specifics later?
Great questions. Usually what happens is I get the idea, like that. I did get the idea from Selling Hope about researching, and that once I heard comet pills, I thought, that's a novel. That's a story I want to tell. I want to learn more about that, and I want to research that. So once I started researching, I usually start with the era, because I knew it had to be set in 1910. So I started with the era, and then once I kind of found out that vaudeville was the primary form of entertainment then, I thought, oh my gosh, that is like a gold mine. That's almost like being handed a gift of how perfect of a setting it was and how grueling their lifestyle was. And just immediately it almost fit together that, of course, there would be a young girl who wanted off the circuit, and the way that she wanted to do it was to sell these comet pills. So it really comes about through research, I would say more. The story comes from research, much more so for me than the story comes and I go back and research. I will show you. I do a lot of reading of books and that kind of stuff, of course, but I try to read newspapers and magazines and advertisements, a lot of advertisements from the era. So I try to go back and read 1910 magazines and those kinds of things. I love looking at old advertisements. It's one of my very favorite things to do. So you were talking about some of the hobbies that I like to do. I think I'm a total nerd, and I love to look at old ads. Because they tell you so much about how things used to look, hairstyles and makeup and jewelry and clothing, cars, kitchens. You can find it all through old ads. And it's definitely something that I recommend if you're interested in researching an era. Pick up an old Life magazine, from 1922, and just look at the ads, and you will learn so much about 1922 just from those ads. It's a great research tool. This is what Selling Hope looks like in research format. Let me see if I can get that closer to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is I do all
The
I put it on. These are all 3x5 note cards. And the categories, I probably can't read these, but it says like 1910, Chicago 1910, The Comet, Kids in 1910, Sayings, Scenes, and Vaudeville were some of the categories. So usually takes about anywhere from 18 months to 2 years worth of research. Autumn was 2 years worth, and Selling Hope took about 1.5 years of research before I could see what the story needed to be and where it was going to go. And I think that's what I love so much about writing, and especially writing historical fiction, is how much you get to learn like that. It's exactly like what you say with homeschooling, how it's that passion for just learning always. And that's part of what I really love about this job.